Hello, mech fans. This is Duncan Fisher. Hold on firmly to your mana potions, fireballs, and familiars, because you are tuning in to your regularly scheduled episode of the First Circuit Podcast.
And with that, tonight's hosts are Biter. Ian.
Oh god, I'm getting a deja vu.
And Oldbobs 10025. I need to go say something. And tonight's topics are Heroes Unleashed Event and Sale, Mechwarrior 5 AMA number 7 about design procedures, Countdown to the Dervish, and the patch notes.
Alright, first just the sales, what is it, 50% off all the hero mechs and the store for whatnot. That's pretty neat. If you've been saving up your MC and whatnot, it's a good time to pick up heroes. Any heroes you guys would suggest?
I picked up the Bounty Hunter and the Black Widow for my alt character.
Neat, yeah. I would use it to give you that C-build boost, and there's some fun ones like the Locust Hero and whatnot. If you're buying the bigger ones, the heavies and assaults, you usually want one that's actually half decent. So obviously, Death Strike, Scorch, even somewhat the Boiler and whatnot. A lot more. There's a lot of interesting choices, but usually at least hero mechs are sort of quirky, if not slightly suboptimal compared to their C-build variants, which is nice.
True.
And 50% C-build boost when using a C-build boosted mech, which is extra good time to start scaling up those hero mechs or playing with hero mechs.
Did you guys do the challenges yet, or?
I have done all the challenges.
Oh, okay.
I have not, but they do look quite interesting. I'm expecting a lot of weird builds right now.
Like what?
Yeah, there have been a lot of weird builds because we've got another of the challenges, which the event is, do X damage with exactly this weapon, which means, and I'm glad at least they set the damage numbers to be fairly low. So it only takes a game, maybe 2 games to do them. But you will see very weird Frankenstein mechs bolted together. So you sort of get to, it's the classic LRM-20 light PPC Rotary 2 mech. It's, Warhammer crawling onto the field. Why has it got that particular loadout? It sounds like a really silly loadout. Well, he's trying to do damage for 3 weapon systems at once. Each of the weapon categories, at least a lot of them, there are very awkward weapons that you have to use. The worst offenders are rocket 20s for Inner Sphere. Just so many rocket mechs, and rockets are just not that great. And you have to do 200 damage with it as well. Like, it's a fairly high number. If you do 5 perfect hits with rocket launcher 20s, sure, you've done the event. But first you have to equip 5 rocket 20s, and then secondly, you have to make sure all of those missiles hit, which is quite an ask. So usually instead, some of those missiles are going to miss. So, there's a lot of Rocket 20 Marauder 2s on the field again, and they take ERPPCs as backup because one of the weapons to do are ERPPCs. It's such a waste of space. The clans have to do heavy machine guns. That's really painful. Clans have to do regular autocannons, AC-20.
Yeah.
That 300 damage in that as well. A lot of people, not so good with their autocannons, can take a while to do it. Even clan lasers, you've got the micro laser, small pulse. There's a lot of lights on the clan side running around with odd combinations of micro laser, small pulse, and heavy machine guns.
Oh my god.
Waddling to the enemy, whilst the rocket LRM-20 with Artemis Cyclopses just flounder around and going, I don't know why I built this thing. And there's an AMS event as well, so all these people taking weird combinations of missile systems, and the missiles are all getting shot down. Like, I would have, in one match, I remember I took an MRM-40 plus LRM-20 with Artemis catapult. I'm doing 2 weapons at once, like others. And the enemy team had, like, 3 triple AMS Novas and a quad AMS Fish. I was not getting, my lamps were not touching anyone if they were around. It really ruined my day, and it's ruining a lot of days for a lot of the missile systems. So And if it just with everyone throwing together these builds, people are playing extra potato with this event going on.
Well, just because I mount an AC20, AC10, AC5, and AC2 on my medium mech doesn't mean I'm a potato, right? With only
Hold
one.
up, if you can fit all of that on a medium, I want it.
Well, he can fit that all. Just he stripped all the armor and
Yeah.
he dies instantly.
And I have half a ton for each weapon.
I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
if you put all the AC types on an Annihilator, it's not actually that terrible if you know how to play it.
Well, the problem is, like, we're talking to Blaine about this, is, for my alt account, I don't have, AC20s just lying around. I got to purchase one. So in essence,
Bob,
what?
why are you poor?
I'm space poor, man. Just
We've talked about it so much. Just get a job and earn some money.
I got to sell my mech, man. But I'm space poor, so like, I mean, the one good thing they did is, they give 250,000 space bucks and 100 MC and plus a cockpit item, so it's actually kind of worth it to go do that just to get the MC wise. But even then, you still have to do, like, autocannon 20 for 300 damage, which is kind of easy to do. But it's like, I got to purchase one now. I got to go get this and use different type of weapon systems. I'm not used to it. It's good you do that though, because you're not stuck in a rut and just playing Hellbringers with heavy lasers and everything. You're actually doing something other than that. But of course, you do get the potato builds, which are BrioS, micro pulse lasers, small, just it's like all the different lasers that are out there.
It's just a lot of people aren't used to using a lot of these weapon systems.
Yeah.
If you're just a laser boat player and you're suddenly taking out LRMs or ATMs, you just don't know how to move. Or at least there's a fair number of players out there who, when they strap some light PPCs onto their mechs, they're not the best at heat management, and light PPCs aren't that good, and they just really struggle to get the work done. Where compared to the mechs that they're used to. I will agree with both. The rewards are at least incentive enough. You get some C bills to make up for the costs you had to, a lot of people may have to invest to actually equip these weapons. The MC, it's always good to get a little bit of MC. You can slowly stack that with time, and each of them are giving cockpit items, though the value of each is quite variable. So, usually, at least for me, I'm always valuing, of course, the war horns. So for that, it's like the Inner Sphere Energy Challenge, and the clan energy. So like only the energy weapons are the most rewarded, in my opinion. Like those are the ones I want to do. Thankfully, they are somewhat the easiest, since lasers are just point and shoot, and you don't have really awkward things to have to deal with, like heavy machine guns and all the various different autocannons.
Yeah. I mean, this one I probably won't boycott, but if I get a chance, I'll play it. Cool, but I probably won't have a chance to play it because I'm so busy. But I'm just glad they don't have. They got counter ECM once, which is dependent on another person, based that kind of thing. So I don't know. But the detections are pretty easy to do. At least it doesn't have the other team has to drop UAV and then fight 11 other people trying to kill it. So I'm not going to boycott it completely. If I get a chance, I'll play it. But I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to play this event, though.
These events really bring out the potato in players, and in some ways, it makes the field a killing field if you're taking a real mech into the field. But you also can't rely on your teammates to hold ground or stop the light mechs from running around with their heavy machine guns and small pulses. Like, why isn't anyone shooting them? And they're all just sort of looking at you awkwardly. You're like, I've got an LRM and I've got rockets. And all these other awkward weapons are light PPC. I just can't hit him. So it's utter pandemonium, and it can be really annoying, at least if you're used to a more competent or slightly more on average competent meta. The players are just extra potato in these, and it's a little bit of a chore to go through, and it's a bit hard, at least if you don't have the weapons in storage or mechs that are a decent fit for it. You just have to sort of make do. So this isn't the better format of event, honestly. I much prefer the simple, get premium time at the start and then just earn match score, and you get your rewards like previous weeks.
Next topic is AMA.
All right. From what I've gathered, isn't it the Mechwarrior 5 AMA is going to be about UI design?
I don't know. Like, the AMAs are usually kind of not something I enjoy listening to, and I skip them so far, especially if the user interface we've had so many interactions of Mechwarrior titles. Like by now, we know what kind of user interface works and what doesn't. So we'll see. There's probably gonna be a summary that I'm gonna read, and maybe there's something interesting in there.
I mean,
Um,
go
yeah,
ahead.
the big thing with this would at least be if they promise to show some progress, like on, for example, like in the mechs, that has mostly been sorted out, but the overall, like how all the menus inside your ship, managing your mechs and this, that, and the other, that I would be interested in. Like, for example, the mech lab in this game, how does it work? What does it look like? Just things like that would be really, really interesting. But I don't think it's going to be that. It's just going to be them talking about the concepts and theory behind UI design and making
Yeah,
sure
and
it's all.
it's gonna be another one of those AMAs, so they're relying on people asking questions, and people asking questions are usually, well, weird to say the least.
What's a design curve going on a planet with different gravity systems? Weather effects on bullets. Yeah.
You know, like
Could I have a thing representing the current gravity of my, that's affecting my mech?
Yeah.
And can we have bumpy gravity fields? Because not all planets have uniform gravity fields.
like those are the kinds of questions I would potentially even listen to because they're interesting and niche and weird. But most of the time, people just ask standard questions that are already answered and questions that are just.
Can I
not
aim with a
part of
reticule?
Well, the one
Yeah.
thing that this has an advantage of is getting hype still for Mechwarrior 5 when it does come out, and so I don't
Right.
fault them for doing this. It's good they do this. Some people might not like it, some people do like it. It's just a matter of just keeping the hype for Mechwarrior 5 going and talking about it and doing that kind of stuff, and that's what they need for like PGI, like anyways, as we talked with Bombadil.
Yep.
More attempts to interact with the community. If you're really interested in Mechwarrior 5, you can
Yeah.
check it out. If you're just waiting for the game to come out, just wait until the game comes out.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be kind of cool if they had like a progress of like of pictures that they show in Discord saying, this is what it was and this is what it is now. What do you guys think? Type thing or something like that. Just be interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next topic is
Dervish.
about the Dervish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen the countdown, the quirks, the size comparisons?
I seen the size
I'm
comparison.
looking at what I know, and I'm gonna say those size comparisons are freaking amazing. Whoever did those deserves some real praise.
They're doing a bit more dynamic poses rather than just literally
Yeah.
standing next to your
beautiful.
mechs.
Like the dervish on top of the cat effect, or the tiny dervish beyond the Atlas hip. It's amazing. I love it.
It is cool. It's different from what they used to do, just side by side stuff. So yeah, it's funny, and that's humor is what really sells mechs, I guess. I don't know, but it is interesting, kind of cool.
They're only so useful. At least the issue, they're only able to compare them to whatever mechs are on the field, and it's sort of like, oh look, we're comparing it to an Awesome, an Atlas, and a Cataphract. Like always, there's only a few mechs that they can compare to.
Yeah.
And it's like we sort of just want to see how it compares to other 55 tonners, but there aren't usually 55 tonners on the maps. So yeah, it's a bit more dynamic. It's fairly tall, but it's also kind of squidgy. It's kind of a thin guy.
Yeah. One thing I thought was interesting was the quirks. It seemed like for the quirks, they were just throwing darts at a dartboard and go, okay, well, this guy gets missile spread. That guy gets missile. What is it? That guy gets. The other guy gets. Let's put just basic armor on. This guy gets this, and really, it really didn't actually have a feel of a dervish, of a missile mech. One has spread, -5% spread. One has -10% missile cooldown. It's just like they should have actually put them all together or something like that. They didn't want to make it too powerful.
As with most of the recent MechPack launches, they've been very tepid with quirks, which means a lot of the time, particularly in such a competitive field as Innisphere 55-ton mediums with missile weapons, the Dervish is average to kind of lacking.
Yeah.
A lot of the quirks are indeed very tepid, sort of like the collector's pack variant one that you can get has 10% missile spread and 5% medium laser duration. Ooh. very, very token quirks that give very little flavor to the mech. The biggest quirks, I would say, just generally speaking, is of course just the survival. The mech gets fairly strong survival for its limbs, and I think it does need it. That is good. The arms and legs are really big on this thing. Like the torsos are actually fairly small, so relatively speaking. So you're going to be easily legged or disarmed if it didn't get survival. And this is one of the rare times PGI looked at the mech's geometry and went, big arms. Make them not fall off by giving them survival. Really long legs. Let's make them not fall off really quickly and be a huge weakness to the mech. That is actually fairly good. They also are doing things like the more hardpoints they have, the less quirks they often have. So I think there's one without any torso survival quirks, and the hero also it has like the least quirks at all. It
Yeah.
only has survival for its legs,
Yeah.
and that's partly because they've given it better agility, and it has the most missile hardpoints. So they're being very conservative with it.
Yeah, the main thing I'm looking at right now is the difference between the Dervish 8D and the base Dervish, the 6M. And can you guys spot what's the difference between them? Because they look pretty much the same and they do have very different quirks.
Okay, was it? I know there's 2 with 4 energy and 4 missile, but the hard points are sort of flipped. It's a pain opening up all the tabs.
Yeah, I know.
And flipping between them all.
Yeah, basically you got Energy 4 and Missile 4, 1 AMS for the 8D, and what's the other one?
The 6M, the base one.
The 6M?
They have. Yeah, it's flipped hard points. They're different hard points. I'll say that. There's a few. There's 3 of them with 4 energy, 4 missile, but it's where they are placed that makes the difference, because the arms are quite big and they're more prone to get shot off. So you, particularly also the height, the arms are really low. You much prefer side torso mounts, which is why at least you want the missiles generally in the side torsos, so then you can try and pretend to be a trebuchet. Though, by the way, just be a trebuchet.
Just be a trebuchet, yeah. I know. I mean, like one of the things I do see that this mech does, or what every build's gonna be like this, SERMs or streaks. Maybe not streaks as much, but I know SERMs are.
I would say MRMs are much more popular in the sphere usually on average. This thing could sort of SRM, but it's just like you already have Kintaro, like so many of the other. But Kintaro, Griffin, Wolverine, Shadowhawk, they can all probably do SRMs better, at least usually because they mount plenty in the torsos. There is a variant with 4 missiles in the torsos, but that one doesn't get side torso survival quirks. So if you want to be a tanky 55 tonner without ECM, pick anything other than a Dervish. There is the most interesting one in terms of quirks, and this is a very tepid interesting. Like, it is the one that got the best quirks as they threw a dart onto the dartboard, and that would be the 6MR. That one has a 10% missile cooldown, and it has 1 missile in each side torso. So that means you can fit something like MRM 80, MRM 60 in it, and have 10% cooldown with it. Now, again, you should have just picked a trebuchet. You should just pick an IV4. But if you really want to be a dervish for some reason, that one is locked behind the reinforcement paywall and is the most interestingly quirked. It has the least tepid quirks of all, but it's still pretty tepid.
Yeah. Basically, it doesn't have like the Locus. One Locus has a energy, or used to have an energy, and the cooldown quirk of a negative 50%. The Hunchback 4J has really good. Certain types of mechs have different quirks that actually relate to what they are. And for this, just like we were talking about, it's just a dartboard. You threw some stuff on there, and left torso gets +9 or +5 or whatever it is. And this one, and he also gets missile spread, negative 5%. That'd be cool. And it just doesn't seem like it has a ambiance of like what the mech should be, or like why I should pick this mech, because there are much better mechs out there.
They're at least not very interesting quirks.
Yeah.
They don't give you much to be excited about with this new release. And if you forked out money for the hero, You just got firestormed, son.
Yeah.
I would say flavor quirks. There was one natural candidate. I think this is right. Like it's got 2 MRM20 and 2 MRM10. That has ghost heat as a stock build, and that usually justifies a heat scale limit quirk. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Instead, all it got was 10% missile spread. Hooray!
I know.
Poor
Yeah.
thing, all its missiles in the arms. No, it's a poor boy.
Okay. So
So Dervish doesn't look too bad in its shape. It's quite a thin profile, so it's actually nice when fighting in a team. Like you're not too likely to get friendly fired. Some of the other mechs are really wide, like the champion or whatnot. This one doesn't take up too much space in the team. It can easily poke and peek with its 2 high-mounted side torso mounts. The issue is just at least there are so many other Innisphere 55 tonners that do missiles, and even though a lot of them have been nerfed in the from back in their glory days, they still have a lot more quirkage and interesting things going for them. Dervish.
Okay.
So it's the last MechPack
For a while.
in Mechwarrior Online. Reading the comments has at least been a little hilarious. A lot of people saying, "Oh, here's the last MechPack," and it came out with a like a wet fart. It just sort of plopped into the game.
Oh man. Yeah.
So reading all that has been kind of fun, but also kind of sad, really. It's hopefully in the future, PGI can make the game fun again, or at least try and make mechs have interesting, fun quirks rather than what the Dervish is getting.
True. Okay, I think the last is the small patch notes that we had.
Speaking of not very fun and interesting quirk changes, the patch notes, which gives minor agility buffs to some mechs that in the end won't change that much. Some armor here and there. LBs have a little bit of a spread decrease. Oh, and they're nerfing ATMs by a bit with their range brackets or 3 range damage bracket. And yeah, overall, it's just mostly incidental changes with the game on average becoming slightly less fun for all mechs using ATMs.
Well, that kind of pissed me off because the build I have with the ATMs and the streaks for my clan, Wolf, oh god, I forgot what mech that was. And you know what mech that is, right?
Arctic Wolf.
Yeah, Arctic Wolf.
Yeah,
thank
you've
you.
got a couple on. But
Thank you. I'm getting old,
those,
sorry.
Those aren't really going to be affected too much. It just have to be 25 meters closer. And
Yeah.
I mean, 25 meters aren't that much. There are probably going to be a bunch of edge cases where you would wish to have those tiny bit of extra range, but most cases, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
But still, like, it's synced together, like, really well, though.
I would only say from memorizing the game, there's so many lots of bits and pieces to it, and I really like the 3 damage range zone going out to 270 meters. Just for the basic fact, it's the same range as Innisphere medium lasers, clan heavy mediums, and SRMs and whatnot. Like that's a good, simple range that you can tell people and let them understand. Whereas 245 is a fresh new number I have to remember, and I mean 320 was already kind of awkward, but it just makes everything so much more. Reading the description, they always give us a long description of their thought process, and they're like, "Oh, it very well rewards players for remembering the damage plateaus," and it's like, it has a substantial minimum range. Actually, 120 isn't that bad. I mean, 170 now that is a substantial minimum range, and Innisphere always has to contend with that for their LRMs.
Yeah.
As for the damage plateaus, honestly, I just sort of remembered, okay, get to around 270 meters and it'll do decent damage, even if they're like 300 meters or whatever. There's a damage fall off and it's still doing like 2.5 damage. Like it's not literal plateaus. There's gaps in between, and you're not looking for the exact range. You're actually just looking roughly to be close to the enemy, and it will work. Just don't get into the enemy's face. Be close to them, and ATMs work really well, and that will still be the case. All it does is hurt their ranged game, and they did increase their at extreme ranges, instead of doing 1 damage, they do 1.2 damage. It's still really inefficient to use it that way. You know, it takes forever the missiles to arrive. The missiles have to be locked on for that whole time, or at least, you know, you want to be able to lock on just before it gets there. And you're doing so little damage and you're going through so much ammo, you're not using it at long range.
True, and plus AMS was knock them out.
Somewhat. The thing with AMS, it's only 270 meters range, which was your optimum anyway.
Yeah.
So whether you were, you know, shooting from 500 meters or 270 meters, it would shoot down the same number of missiles because it has the same amount of time, you know, to actually shoot them down, roughly speaking. But yeah, it does give random mechs along the way a chance to shoot it down. That is a point. But yeah, I think ATMs were one of the strongest few remaining missile systems. It just feels really bad that, you know, PGI nerfed all the missile systems into the ground except ATMs, and now they're coming after ATMs as well. And some people in the comments have mentioned it seems like somebody in PGI really dislikes missile systems, and I think they're one of the fairest weapon systems in the game, at least in the sense their damage takes a while to reach the opponent and they usually spread. Whereas, you know, with Dakar and lasers, they're a lot quicker and they can be focused onto a target. They can actually be aimed. Whereas ATMs, streaks, SRMs, whatnot, they have to do everything the hard way. And they were hardly viable in the first place, and PGI just keeps nerfing them and nerfing them for very poor reasons, very bad, very shoddy reasoning, in my opinion. It will play mostly the same. Get within streak range, fire all your missiles, and you'll still be doing 3 to 2 damage with your ATMs, which is pretty good.
I count every foot, man. Every foot, every time, every step I take, I go, okay, that's 0.2 less damage. I'm just kidding. Okay.
Yeah, there's their reasoning about, it has to be exactly the right plateaus, and that minimum range is very important, dudes. It's like, no, not really. That's not how ATMs play. ATMs, you get within 360 meters, you just press, you just splatter them with damage. It's not a precision weapon. If you want precision, you take Dakar or lasers.
Ballistics, they actually decrease the spread for LB's 2s. That's actually pretty cool. Some of my builds I do use the LB2s, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun to play those builds.
It's, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna make a difference.
I mean, it's not gonna make too much of a difference, but hey, you know, every little bit, little helps, little bit. Yeah, you're not gonna notice it that much, but hey.
If I knew exactly what these numbers meant, I could actually figure out what it actually means in game. But all I'm seeing is it goes from 0.35 to 0.doobly-doo. Okay, the number has changed. It's slightly smaller, very slightly smaller. You know, the usual 2%, you know, changes that PGI likes doing.
Yeah. They did also do some things for faction play, which they should have done in the first place, and can't believe they didn't do that.
Yes.
So the changing between factions, that was hotfixed, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was hotfixed.
Well, it was hotfixed to the point that you could change between a conflict phase, which was kind of the middle ground to see whether it would work, and now they're saying, whatever, you can just change whenever you want.
All right, that's good. That's better then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I agree, should have done at least in a hotfix. The hotfix thing wasn't too big a deal. The thing I really like is when you view the faction selection, you can see the population in the conflict. I think that's a really good quality of life change they should have done way earlier. And another quality of life, the beeping sound effect. Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Yep. Also, during a phase, it was annoying if you always had skirmish. You didn't want skirmish. Now there are multiple possible modes during a phase. So you're rolling a bit more of the dice. There's more variety if you're playing match after match. You're not always dropping into the same match. So again, a good quality of life improvement.
I think next is the mech changes. 3 mechs that were changed: the Banshee, the Atlas, and the Kodiak. Now, I did notice the Kodiak, they didn't do the 3, which is what everyone uses. So they didn't do anything.
Also, the funny thing, like if you look at the numbers, Kodiaks, they don't adjust any but the 3, but also the Spirit Bear does not get acceleration, deceleration improvements. annoyingly, which it only gets like torso to speed, this, that, and the other. So the Spirit Bear is also being deliberately not. It's not getting the same improvements like the others because they don't want it to become fun again.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about not improving the Kodiak 3? Is it is it in a good spot right now, or does it need some help and some love like the others?
I think it's fine. Every time I do play that one, like on Old Bob, it just blow away things, and I think it's one of the go-to mechs for a lot of different things. That's why they didn't touch it, they didn't do anything for it, and so they modified all the different other like Kodiaks to kind of be a par, saying, "Hey, there's other Kodiaks here. You can play these guys too," and that's kind of like what they did, at least in my own thinking.
Yeah, I think the Kodiak 3 is, I mean, it's obviously the strongest Kodiak and the one you see the most. I think it's in a fine position. It might not hold up to some of the more meta mechs, but I don't want to see it become OP as it was right at least. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with them leaving it.
The others do really need help with their
Yes.
not so meta hardpoint locations. And funnily enough, at least the Kodiak 4 in particular is actually getting some weapon quirks. However, these are the usual token weapon quirks that don't really mean too much. 10% missile velocity, 10% missile spread, 5% LRM spread. So it only has 2 missile hardpoints, one in each arm, I think it is. So you could take LRM 40 and have minus 15% spread and 10% extra velocity. Woo! That's not really enough reason to take a Kodiak 4. Or, it's very uninspiring, honestly. The missile spread values. I mean, if you're taking only 2 missile launches, it's going to be either 2 big LRMs or 2 big ATMs, more or less. I don't think there's much point in taking SRM 12 or Streak 12.
Yeah. I mean, I would still, my go-to mech is just be the Kodiak 3 though. The other ones I wasn't too impressed with, like anyways.
Yeah, I just feel they should stop bothering with pointless quirks, like quirks that almost nobody really cares about, and just give mechs that need some help real quirks that really help them out. Like simple ones like if a Kodiak has a lot of weapons in the arms, give it arm durability.
Yeah.
Oh no, it has 10 extra armor. Will that really break the game? I don't think so.
Well, they do that for like the gridiron. They give it extra, durability and actually, armor in the right torso. For the 4G, for the AC-20, Hunchback, the same thing. They give extra, stuff for that because that's like their main super duper weapon. And so they do that kind of stuff, but they made it so quirks are actually.
That was back in the old days where they actually quirked for the games to be fun.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays we come up with things like the machine gun javelin, where all the machines are stuck in the arms, and we give the arms no survivability, leading to the mech being quickly disarmed.
Yeah, it's just basically like they're not actually making the mech or the mechs themselves have personalities. It's just that one's better than this one, and I'm gonna go for that one instead of this one type thing. So it's not really, why would I play this type of mech when it's totally nerfed like crazy when I could just play that one, which blows that one out of the water type thing.
Yeah, I mean, take for example the Spirit Bear. Its deceleration has changed from 12.5 to 13.25. It's got an increase of 0.7 deceleration. So if it's at 50 kph, it will get there. I can't even do the calculation. It'll be a fraction of a second faster to get to 0 seconds. Okay, I mean you could use mask and it will be 2 fractions of a second faster to reach 0 kph.
Yeah.
It is a buff, yes. It is, however, such a tiny, almost inconsequential buff compared to how it was, of course, pre-engine desync. It's still not going to get that place back in the old days where it was actually fun to play. I don't think it was ever meta. It was just, it was actually quite effective, like fun and effective to play, but not, game defining. But sadly, at least, it's going to take them another few decades until they give it enough 0.75 increases until it's back where it used to be.
Well, like, things like the Atlas, basically they gave it a moderate increase in mobility, but the Annihilator Fafnir blew it out of the water, and I rarely ever see Atlases on the battlefield, ever, because obviously there's better mechs that, that are out there. So the Atlas needs, or mechs themselves need some type of, special quirk for that mech designed for it, like instead of just, token type stuff that they pop in there, just like you're talking about. Yeah, it was going 50 miles per hour. Now it's going 50.1 miles per hour. No one really knows the difference. No one really cares about those types of differences, but they want to see, like, the Atlas has an AC20 quirk of negative 30, basically, to go ahead and have it done. So everyone pops in, like a,
yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with the Atlas change is it makes the Marauder 2 even more obsolete than it used to be. The Marauder 2 used to have the one advantage, like one claim to fame was, I'm the most agile 100-tonner! And now the Atlas is more agile then. So why am I taking the thing with bad hardpoints?
Yeah.
In the end, though, all we're talking about is, Atlas used to have just a bit below 11, and the Marauder 2 had just, about the same. But now the Atlas has got 13. It's 13 instead of 11. It's taking the world by storm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, like, any other final thoughts on the mechs, on the patch notes and everything?
Nope.
No.
The Banshees all got extra CTR. Good. They often get called out quickly. Giving them more agility, that's fine. I do like that after giving everyone the Siren, probably seeing that the Siren performed really badly,
Yeah.
they gave it an additional 5% heat generation, which is actually a pretty nice quirk. This is probably the most substantial change other than the ATMs in this this patch.
Oh God, that's funny.
And of course, the Siren has been almost forever a very, very bad mech,
Yeah.
or at least a fairly bad mech. I've actually had some success with it, but that's just me. Still, I kind of like that extra little heat gen. It means I can slap more. Siren, not Lamanche. Yeah. But anyway, extra heat gen means my large pulsar build is just that little bit better. Yeah. To wrap up my thoughts on the patch notes, though, it's the same as it's been for the last few months. It's tiny little minor improvements to mechs that hardly see play, that will still not really see play, along with tiny little nerfs that slowly erode the fun of the game for everyone.
And the stuff we're going to see in the future, which are fixes for faction play.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, they're still gonna
And
work
at
on
least this
faction.
time they didn't. They're slowly undoing the damage from last month.
Yeah, that was a big damage, man. That's the reason why a lot of people didn't play. So, and with that is episode 90.5 of the First Circuit podcast. Tonight's hosts were Biter,
Larg.
Ian,
Even more of a déjà vu here.
and Oldbobs 10025, and I have to come up with same. So thank you very much for watching 90.5. We do appreciate you, everything you guys do, for all the support you give us, and we'll see you on the battlefield.